Alara's life had been spent among the brittle, sea-salted edges of civilization. An apprentice clockmaker, she had inherited a peculiar obsession from her grandfather, the location of the lost Arcus Observatory. Local legend claimed it was a sanctuary of forgotten science, built by a mysterious order of celestial cartographers who vanished a century ago. One blustery autumn evening, while sorting through her grandfather's final estate, a hoard of rusty springs and half-finished gears, she found it. Not a map, but a single perfectly smooth piece of obsidian, etched with a microscopic pattern. Placing it under the light of her workshop lamp, the pattern resolved into a three-dimensional topographic view of the jagged coastal mountains behind her village. A single point glowed faintly, the peak of Mount Cinder. "Arcus," she whispered. The climb took 3 agonizing days, the obsidian stone humming faintly in her pocket. When she finally reached the summit, she found not a structure, but a deep, circular trench hidden by a curtain of gnarled cypress trees. Following the trench led her to a massive bronze door, unmarked, save for a single recessed indentation shaped exactly like the obsidian stone. The moment the stone slid into place, the door hissed inward on silent, ancient hydraulics. Alara stepped into the silence of the Arcus Observatory. It was a cavern carved deep into the mountain rock, vast and cool, but the true wonder was the central chamber. A single, colossal lens, polished to impossible perfection, hung suspended by fine wires, gathering the pinpricks of light from a circular opening high above. The light wasn't projected onto a screen. It was focused on a complex mechanical apparatus in the center of the floor. This apparatus was the chronometer of the cosmos. It wasn't designed to tell time, but to track change. Gears of polished brass, silver, and copper interlocked in a dizzying ballet, each tooth representing 1,000,000 years, each rotation charting the subtle dance of nebulae and the silent journeys of comets. The air vibrated with the faint, low hum, the sound of history turning. She approached the only desk in the room, dusted with the century of volcanic ash. On it lay a leather-bound journal. The final entry, written in fading indigo ink, read, "We mapped the stars, yes, but mapping is an act of static preservation. We sought to map the future of the light. The chronometer is complete. Our work now takes us to where the light began, before it ever reached this lens." Alara was not a trained astronomer, but she was a clockmaker. She understood the language of interlocking motion. She spent the next week studying the mechanism, tracing the movement of the planetary gears. She realized the cartographers hadn't just observed the current night sky. They had built a living model of the galaxy's rotation. One night, the central lens swiveled. A beam of pure violet starlight focused directly onto a clean parchment scroll sitting on the desk. Slowly, meticulously, the chronometer's stylus began to move, drawing lines of silver dust. It was a map, not of the constellation she knew, but of a pattern yet to form, a future arrangement of stars, an uncharted constellation that would define a new era of the cosmos. The cartographers hadn't simply vanished. They had reached the end of their map, and deciding they could only proceed by experience, had followed the light's origin point, leaving behind the greatest celestial forecasting machine ever built. Alara ran her finger over the newly drawn silver line. She hadn't found a lost relic. She had found a tool that demanded a new apprentice. The chronometer of the cosmos needed someone to read its prophecies and record the ever-changing face of the universe. She pulled a stool up to the desk, her old obsession replaced by a profound new purpose. She was the new cartographer of starlight.